Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with hosts Amy Babinchek, James Kernan, and Carl Polachek. Produced by Kernan Consulting and for the international MSP community. We are dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional.
Today's SMB Community Podcast is brought to you by Huntress Managed Security. Cybersecurity isn't just about software, it's about expertise. Huntress boasts the #1 rated endpoint detection and response for small and medium-sized businesses on G2. Trust us to keep your systems secure. With a 99% customer satisfaction score, our support team is second to none. We're not just a vendor, we're your partners on the security front line. Ready to experience the future of cybersecurity? Start your trial now at huntress.com/Carl. Don't wait. Lock down your defenses today.
Hello, dear listeners of the SMB Community Podcast. Welcome and thank you for listening to the SMB Community Podcast with me, Amy Babinchek, and James Kernan. Welcome, James. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Amy?
I'm doing better here in Michigan than you're doing down there in the plains.
Yeah.
You're here this morning, so I take it you survived the tornadoes.
Yeah, we had quite a weekend. Yeah, the power was out and just came back on last night. So I thought I was going to be recording not in my home office, but somewhere else today.
I have kind of a shirt-tail relative that lives in Oklahoma. She has a safe room in her house. Tornadoes came through where she was. She has a safe room in her house. And you know what she does when she's in her safe room? She plays her flute.
That's awesome.
I guess you got to, do something that you can entertain yourself while you're sitting in a box, and that maybe it's calming. And
Yeah, lowers your stress level. Our safe room is our movie room, the home theater. That's deep under our home in a bunker. But normally when you go into a safe room, you kind of take like bare necessities, right? I've not heard of anyone taking a flute.
whatever works for you. So James, other than surviving tornadoes, what are you up to?
I've got so my wife and I were out of town and then came back early. But that was a little fun trip. Next week I'll be at SMB TechFest in Irvine, California, speaking about EOS. Looking forward to that. Got a couple sessions there. And then in June, there's a virtual M&A event that I'm attending and speaking at. Then I'm speaking at a physical M&A event June 26th in Tampa. And then the 27th, 28th, we've got our Mastermind Live Roadshow that you and I are speaking at.
So, we are both speaking at, and everyone should be there because that's a special event right there.
Yeah, it sure is. No, it'll be fun. Looking forward to seeing you in person and getting together. We've got some great speakers lined up and a lot of fun. So busy. What do you have going?
Well, I kind of reserve May for boat launches. And as we mentioned before, I have an extra boat because I'm in transition. So I've got double the boat launches this spring. But then in June, I'm going to be at Channel Pro in Columbus, and the NSITSP is actually, we're having a board meeting there. So if you ever wanted to meet any of the board folks, the movers and shakers at the NSITSP, we are actually all going to be there.
Oh.
And I might be speaking. One of us is speaking. I'm not sure who's doing that. It may end up being me. And also in May, NSITSP has its 3rd anniversary.
Oh.
So we've made it to year 3, and we're going to have some major announcements, and we've got a public meeting coming up to tell everybody about that. I think it's May 7th. I'll get a link that we can share that in the notes here. And no, actually it's later in May than that, now that I think about it. Anyway, we'll get the show notes for that. And then, yeah, at the end of later in June, I'll be with you down in Clearwater, Florida. So
Fantastic.
good stuff.
Fantastic.
So our question of the day was very, very serendipitous because I actually wrote a blog post for NSITSP about this topic.
Mhm.
And the topic is about non-compete agreements. And the reason I wrote a blog post on it is because the law just changed. And maybe this is actually what
Right.
prompted the question. I'm not sure. So let me tell you a little bit about the labor law that changed. There was two labor law changes that are important for business. One is the non-compete. Um, and what they did on the non-compete was um, narrow the definition of senior staff. Right? Before you could sort of, if a person was a senior staff member, they would be eligible to be under a non-compete, right?
Right.
They'd risen to some level. And so that was in their job title, and that was what that meant. Well, the new rules say no, that's not actually the case. What they need to be is in a senior employee that is in a policy decision-making role. So if they're not in a policy decision-making role in your business, then they can't be held to a non-compete. If you go over to the NSITSP blog, and you'll see that link there at the top of the page, I've got the whole text of the rule in a PDF that you can download that tells you exactly who and who cannot be under non-competes these days.
Now that was a federal law, right? That was passed.
Yeah, that's a federal law, and states have been moving in the direction of allowing fewer and fewer non-competes.
Right.
It's kind of, sort of generally seen to be unfair to workers and to um, prevent them from taking, the next job, or prevent them from advancing in their career potentially.
Right.
Because a lot of these non-competes say, well, you can't work for anybody in the same industry, you can't work for anybody in a certain radius. So it's limiting their opportunities for work. And that's been the thing that they're trying to defend while balancing the need for, businesses to protect their information at the same time. It's
Right.
complicated balancing point.
It's
I think
very
it,
complicated. Yeah.
yeah, both states and federal are sort of adjusting and kind of jockeying around and trying to find out where that balancing point is. And so if you haven't looked at those rules in your state recently, you'll probably want to do that. And then you'll want to look at these new federal rules as well.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I've been in several states where it was already outlawed and it's not enforceable. Like the state of California, it's been like that forever. So, as business owners, what people would do, oh, non-compete, you can't put that language in there. But what you can put in your agreements as a business owner to an employee is the misuse of confidential and trade secret information for personal gain. So, essentially that's the same type of thing, non-solicitation of employees, non-solicitation of customers, and then misuse of confidential information. And that's always such a, well, how do you prove if it's confidential or not? Pricing formulas, and terms on contracts, things
Right.
like that. So a lot
Yeah.
of people have that in their agreements, but I'm surprised at what a hoopla it made. I mean, I saw a lot of this in the media, a lot of people talking about this, but for me, non-competes have been, for the most part, unenforceable in many states for a long time.
Yeah. I thought so too, but apparently there are still 30 million workers subject to non-competes. And I think the method that you just described makes more sense to me because
Yeah,
we don't want to prevent people from working or advancing in their career. What you're really after with that is what you just described, right? Protecting
Now,
information from their previous employer.
what are your thoughts on this, Amy? Because there's two sides of this. One, there's the employee, right? I
Mhm,
should be able to go work for whoever I want and earn a living for my family. Boy, I get that. But on the
mhm.
flip side, as a business owner, you've got to protect yourself to allow your employees to go take your customer list and then plug it into a new CRM company at your competitor down the street and start poaching all your clients.
I think it's a concern for businesses, and so I've always approached that from a data security point. Not allowing those contact lists to be downloaded,
Yep.
right? Setting alerts on if that attempts to be done, it blocks the account. We do things like that as part of our standard set of policies. We also have some policies set up that alert to unusual volume of downloads, which is something that can also happen if an employee is leaving, right? They might be like, oh, I want to make sure I have this information with me when I go. So we'll alert on that and then block the account until we see what's happening, right? So I think there's some things that IT can do to help that. On the other side, though, there's a lot of this that's just an HR issue, right?
Mhm.
Not all problems are IT problems. Sometimes we have to push back and say, no, I think that's an HR issue,
Yeah.
and it's okay to do that. Now, from a personal standpoint, in my MSP, there was kind of two schools of thought that you could go with. One was um, I'm not going to let my clients have a direct relationship with my techs because I don't want the techs to take the clients. And so they rotate them and make sure that the techs are never, never seen as the guy, right? Um, and obfuscate them through generic email addresses, don't give out cell phone numbers, all these kinds of things. And to me, I was looking at that and I thought that sounds like a whole lot of additional work. And so I decided not to worry about it.
Hmm.
And I just thought that having those kinds of personal relationships was important to my business, right?
Yeah.
The culture that we wanted to build was that personal relationship. I just needed to make sure that I had a very strong brand presence
Yep.
so that when when a staff member left, the clients were not, you know, weren't thinking like, oh, I'm going to follow that person. They were thinking, oh, I know Harbor's got lots of great people, and the next person's going to be as good as the previous one.
Right.
I actually did have a tech one time. Um, he wasn't with us very long, and I ended up letting him go. And I had two clients contact me and say, hey, this guy's reached out. And he hasn't said I'm starting a new MSP. What he said was, "Oh, if you ever just find yourself needing some extra help, Harbor's not available, you could still just call me."
No.
And they let me know that was going on, and I sent him a harshly worded letter.
Right. Well, and it's the unfortunate reality, but I've been in consulting now for 17 years, and then before that, as a business owner for most of my 15 years of running MSPs, so you've got to protect your company. And I applaud what you did, and you've got to hold people accountable. I love, I would always tell employees when we'd recruit them, I go, look, here's our employee agreement. Here's what I'm going to say about it. I hope and pray you never leave.
Yeah.
We're hiring you and we're offering you this job because we love you, we like you, we trust you, and we want you to stay here forever.
Mhm.
But in the event you ever do leave, you know, we're going to sit down and review this agreement. There's a couple no-nos in here. I'll let you and your attorney read through the rest of the 5 pages. But one, I don't want you to ever lie or steal from us. And, that's part one. And then if you ever do leave, please, don't try to take our employees or customers. That's all. And then I'll let you read through the rest of it and the T's and C's in the agreement. But again, I
Mhm.
hope you never leave. Setting expectations, kind of like I think you were hinting at more of an HR responsibility. You brought up another one, and I want to emphasize this because this is really important legally. You do need to have reasonable uh, security measures set up from an IT infrastructure to protect the data, to make sure that it would constitute being confidential trade secret information. If you make it readily available or public, then it's not, and you don't protect it, or don't even try, then it's not really enforceable regardless of what agreements you have in place.
You have to make some
So,
effort to protect it, right?
right.
And it's not just a permissions. You have to actually do something to elevate it
Yeah.
above and beyond your normal data that somebody would have access to, that this is confidential data. And that's fairly easy to do these days in Microsoft 365. There's a data labeling tool. It's very easy to use. You can even, set default labels on things. You can require labeling, so won't let somebody save a file unless they label it of, it's open or it's confidential, or whatever labels you decide to create. And you get to create the things that make sense for your business. So yeah, it's important stuff. So, on the one hand, we might think that, oh, non-competes are dead, but there's still stuff you have to do. So it's
Yep.
good to know. The other change that came out this week was regarding overtime. And this is again a federal, so this is the Labor Relations Board, and they or it's rather Department of Labor, and they there's a minimum salary level that you have to hit in order to be considered exempt from overtime,
Hmm.
and that level didn't go up since 2020, which meant that more and more and more and more people were becoming exempt from overtime.
Okay.
And that, that's not a good thing, right? People are working and not getting paid. And so what they did is they've got a 2-year catch-up period, and then they actually put in, and I don't know why they didn't do this in the first place, they put in a kind of regular regular adjustment, right? That's going to occur every 3 years so that it keeps up with changes in the market,
Yep. That's
and
smart.
then they don't have to go back and do this again. So yeah, that's something that should have been done in the first place, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Um,
important.
yeah, so they also, reiterated and made sure that you're also thinking of this in a very narrow way, because who is not eligible for overtime is getting narrower and narrower, and similar um, to the non-compete agreements, they've got this senior executive definition as well. So same kind of thing. You can't just add the word senior and go, yeah, you're on salary and you're a senior employee, and so you're exempt from overtime. That's not the case. So they've kind of reiterated that and put some definitions, and they put some examples around it too that you can use. And there's a nice PDF there and fact sheet that sort of makes it in very plain English to help employers understand how that
Hmm.
works. So you can read that over at nsitsp.org is where I blogged that. It's got, links right to the main sources, because I'm not the expert. Just wanted to make folks aware of it because it's important for our business that we know these things.
I could talk about the non-competes because I've been on both sides, as an employee and then as a business owner. That's a
Mhm.
very interesting topic. So we'd love to hear great questions like that. We'd love to hear from you. So any questions that you have, you want Amy and I to banter back and forth on and discuss with you, just send that over on smbcommunitypodcast.com or just email me at james@kernanconsulting.com. We'd love to hear from you. So I saw another headline that I thought was kind of interesting. It said big tech firms lose its dream status due to layoffs and instability. And looked at that article. It was up on cnbc.com. And it was just kind of how working for the big tech companies really has lost its dream status because, years ago, right, it seemed like everybody in the tech industry once upon a time worked for IBM or Microsoft, or Amazon, the big sexy tech companies. But the reality is those jobs aren't so stable anymore. And they're increasingly more difficult, more is expected of them. But there's been a ton of layoffs, and that just kind of caught my eye.
Yeah, the big tech companies have been in the news for their layoffs. And the interesting thing is, they're doing layoffs while making record profits at the same time. So it's really not about things are getting bad for them, and so they're reducing their headcount. We have this weird thing today where a lot of it's about stock market, right?
Yep.
If their stock price goes down, they're like, oh, well, a quarterly earnings report is out. We need to say we might miss it by 1 cent, or we might not have hit the lofty number that they thought we were going to hit, or maybe there's a slowing in one of their product lines or something, and they want to compensate for that by saying, yeah, we're reducing headcount by 10%. And when the big companies do that, it doesn't matter who you are. You can be the very best employee that they have. They
Right.
just go, it's a haircut, just shoot 10% across the board. And,
Yeah.
there's 14,000 people laid off. The good news is the way where we're at right now in the economy, those people are getting jobs again, right off the bat. But that's frustrating. I wouldn't want to be subject to that. I mean,
No, I wouldn't. I mean, it's the whole beauty about being in control of your own destiny and being a small business owner.
mhm.
I've had my own companies for over 30 years, and I'm sure you're probably right behind me there. Amy, I got to jump in and say this. Even though there's been all sorts of layoffs, I couldn't agree with you more about your comment. Today's headline, Microsoft reports their Q2 earnings, and it was top line revenues up 18%, and their net income was up over 20%.
And they just laid off a bunch of people. Like, so
Right.
it's not these layoffs are not happening because of the economy. They're happening for other reasons. I'm totally with you, James, about controlling my own destiny. And I think even if you're an employee of a small company,
Mhm.
you're not going to be laid off because they need to make 10% cuts across the board. If somebody gets let go from a small business, there's a there's a more fundamental reason than that, right?
Right. I've worked for privately owned firms my entire career. And as a consultant, I was actually hired by a publicly traded company. I came in as their CRO, and their CEO resigned after I think I was there for almost a year at this time. And the board recommended me to that seat. And I was a contract executive. And believe it or not, I took that for the short term. And they had some very specific things they were trying to hit and bundle things up. And they were getting ready to sell the business. That was really what was going on.
Mm.
But I will tell you, there was working for as an executive for a publicly traded company, it was so backwards for me. And to your point, they were making horrible long-term decisions for the benefit for the quarter. Get those quarterly earning reports. It just made no sense to me at all. And after that position ended for me, it was like, oh, I'm so grateful I can work, in private practice again, and for business owners that will listen to your advice and then turn right around and make good short-term decisions that will impact in a positive way long term.
Yeah, I worked for a short time at the beginning of my career in larger businesses, and um, you know, I just reached I worked for two larger businesses, and I just reached points of dissatisfaction, right? Where
Yeah.
um, it wasn't that I wasn't listened to or didn't feel I didn't have a voice, but there's so many layers of bureaucracy, so many layers of management, so many barriers between you and the customer. Um, I chose then not to work in that environment anymore, and that's when I started my business, and I never looked back. I just find that I yeah, I enjoy being in control of my own destiny, and I enjoy that direct relationship to the customer.
Hey there, this is James Kernan with Kernan Consulting, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the Mastermind Peer Groups. So, with the Mastermind Peer Groups, you get a powerful combination of customized coaching, accountability, and weekly synergy sessions with like minded professionals from all around North America. These peer groups are really focused on sales, marketing, and growth. It's all about results. So be prepared to take your business to new heights and see if you've got what it takes to be one of the Mastermind Peer Group members. Thank you. In this week, 5 Minutes with a Smart Person, I had a chance to sit down and meet with two superstars from a true success story, a company called BitWizards out of Florida. Been in business over 20 years, kind of a rags and riches story, but they've really grown into a powerhouse there on kind of the southern eastern seaboard. But tune in and make sure you listen. We talk about forming long-term relationships and the importance of that in our ecosystem with our strategic partners, our employees, but more specifically with our customers. That's really what we've targeted. So make sure to listen in. So let's kind of dig into the topic, client relationships. Let's maybe start off with your motto. That kind of caught my eye. Sam, why don't you jump in on that? Tell me your motto and how that will define your culture and how you treat people. So let's start there.
I'm the same way. It's a topic that is near and dear to my heart, is talking about these relationships that we form with our clients, because it completely changes the dynamic of how we as an MSP interact with them. And for us, as you said, we have a motto here, and it's not even our official company motto or anything like that. I remember the day that Lewis walked into one of our IT meetings and wrote it on the whiteboard, just kind of like we were out of the top of his head as we're coming up with this. But the idea there was that our motto is that we want happy customers and great IT in that order. And the most important part of that, of course, is the in that order part, because as technicians, and I'm that way, I'm a technical person, and I love all things technology. And so it's so easy to focus on the technology. And we've said, yes, we want to do great IT for people. We want to do the best job we can do. But the most important piece to it first is making sure that our clients, our customers are happy. So we said, happy customers, great IT in that order. And now we have built the rest of our MSP around that.
What does that look like? I mean, it's one thing saying it, okay, but how do you guys live it day in and day out? How'd you get there?
Well, and if I could just jump in real quick on this, I think it's important to say that the idea is a great idea, but it only works if it actually works. And so we wanted to make sure that it will actually pan out, and the statistics are speaking for themselves for us. We're currently on a streak of 211 days. So we're on a 212th day of having 100% CSAT response from all of our ticket work, all of our project work, all of our clients, and all of the responses have been 100% positive responses. And on top of that, our response rate is over 36% of closed work that is getting a response, which is a high statistic. It's over twice the national average. And so because of that, we said, if we're getting such good customer success responses and we have such a good relationship, it stems from that motto, from that vision of happy customers, great IT. And for us, that starts from when we're hiring, through the interactions we have with our clients, and then the ongoing components we keep in place for that with our clients.
And here's this is what I like to say. It isn't because we haven't made a mistake in 212 days. It's impossible. Things happen. Good, smart people, they make mistakes. The reason we have such the positive response is that building the connection, that relationship with the person. So, if as an analogy, if you were to go to a restaurant and you got horrible service and the food was late and was cold and stuff, you might give a negative review. But if you're going, the waitress, the waiter is giving you positive feedback, is treating you like a human being, you're going to be much more forgiving of those mistakes by having that human touch. And that's the heart of the motto. We live it on a regular basis. We don't measure ticket score closings. what you measure is what does. So that CSAT rating is what we're looking at for our staff. That's what they're focusing on. We have a weekly meeting where I tend to talk at the higher level about this type of thing, talking about how to build those connections, about sincerity. I said, listen, I'm wanting you to connect with our clients. I'm wanting you to ask, what else could you do for them? Could you take a little extra time and maybe train them? Could you ask them if they have other problems? And then reach deeper, spend more time with them. Respect respect the issues that they have. They are experts in what they do.
Yeah.
Do not look down, because there's a nice story, and I don't know if we have time for it, that Sam actually did, where somebody had just a horrible time because she said, all of my clients were here alphabetical, and now they're all over the place, and I have to hunt for them. And she asked for Sam's help. She didn't understand. She was looking at files in File Explorer and simply had misclicked on the sort order and didn't understand that that was a thing. And so Sam corrected it for her. Now, other people might have sniggered behind their back about the silliness of that and whatnot, but this was a paralegal, and none of us could write the legal document, right? We are blessed that they do what they do, and they give us an opportunity to do what we love to do, to fix these IT problems, to help them. And by treating them with respect, by appreciating the skills that they bring to our society, allowing us to bring our skills and make a living with the things that we enjoy, is a blessing. And so we constantly reinforce that with our team, to respect our clients, to treat them as human beings. And again, I don't even tell them to follow a script. So we have introverts, we have others. I'm not going to try to force somebody to ask about the person's day if it's not natural to them, because people can detect insincerity. I said, it's almost brainwash yourself. Just be kind, be polite, and be yourself.
Sam, Lewis, thank you for being on today and sharing your wisdom with everybody. You guys are a true success story, and this industry is very challenging. Okay, these guys get it. I can tell by what they're saying and how they treat each other, and the words they're using, and they're explaining their whole culture. This industry, it doesn't have to be so hard. You guys are all smart enough. Just don't reinvent the wheel. Just find out what works and replicate it. Okay, replicate it, and check out. I think it's correct me if I'm wrong. It's bit-wizards.com. Anyway, well done, guys. Yeah, we'd love to have you back on the program, and you guys have a great rest of the week. And thanks again.
Thanks, James.
All right, take care, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening today on the SMB Community Podcast, and we hope to see everyone next week.
Today's SMB Community Podcast is brought to you by Huntress Managed Security. Cybersecurity is more than software. It's about the expertise needed to effectively fight today's evolving threat landscape. Huntress Managed Security is custom built to provide human expertise and save your clients from cyber threats. Huntress's suite of fully managed cybersecurity solutions is powered by a 24/7 human-led SOC dedicated to around-the-clock monitoring, expert investigation, and rapid response. While you focus on growing your business, we provide first response to hackers. Huntress has the #1 rated EDR for SMBs on G2 and a partner support satisfaction score average of 99%. To start a trial today, visit huntress.com/Carl.